this out. Let me slide my comments over. And okay, so I'm going to show you kind of what I started. So again, I have all different pieces of the DSP here. This is a really fun paper. It's got the fish, has lots of colors. So we're going to work with one for now that I already started, and then we'll move on to a second one after that. So I have my base. So this is Pretty Peacock, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then what I did was, and I'll show you this after the fact, I just went through and stamped some basic, whatever we call it, white nowadays. I stamped that with Calypso Coral ink. And I'm going to show you real quick what I did with my Stamparatus, because I did ink it a few times. So I did that with my Stamparatus. And I was using many messages. I will do this again, but I'm just kind of giving you the gist. I also have a lot of other little words in here that I already saved. And then here's my die. So thankfully this is one that's carrying over, so that makes me happy. So anyway, I stamped this, and I'll show you what we did. But I'm just going to start off by showing you what I am working on, and then we will start a new one. So what I did, I have my pieces here. I kind of was trying to make this something different from what was in the catalog. So I have my base piece, and then I have a piece, and I'll show you what I mean here. I have it because I did a few of these ahead of time. I have a piece of Calypso Coral, and I cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. And then what I did, and I also, just as a side note, because there are some pieces missing here, I die cut this from a piece of the Whale Done DSP. So you can see there's some pieces missing. They'll just slide right in here. Now, to try to make it a little bit smarter, I actually put adhesive sheet on the back. It was just some leftover strips. So some of this will already have adhesive on it. And then I was just thinking of, instead of doing like your same old card, maybe what I would do is just kind of lay this down and put some pieces on. So that's where I am. So I'm going to show you what I have. And I'm kind of trying to stick with a same, I guess you would call it, theme of greeting. Because this one is like wonderful memories. So here's what I did. I kind of took my piece. Take this one out. And I lined it up. I just kind of eyeballed where it was. And I was like, okay, that looks pretty good. And then I just fit in some pieces. So this may not fit exactly because I did move it since then. So what I did was, granted, I do have this little border here, which this one I kind of cut. You can see it's a little bit crooked. So this may not turn out. This is my very first time of trying this specific technique. So I have all these greetings. So this one I already filled in. I did swap that. That would have been here. And I just swapped that for one of the sentiments I already did. This little piece here is the piece that was cut off from here. It's missing, and I noticed this looks a little crooked, so might have to put something over there to fix it. This is stuck down, and let's see, what else do we have here? So what is this sentiment? Just a card to say hello. So instead of using this little piece here, so we kind of have this lined up the way we want, so then I'm just going to take a little bit of liquid glue. I'm just going to fit this in. Another thing you could do, which I might do this, would be to put it up on a dimensional. Actually, I had a little bunch of mini dimensionals. I'm going to use those since they're white. But I thought that would kind of be fun too. So the pieces that are here, what I did was, and I'm going to just kind of give you a slight, and again, I wasn't very specific when I did my first one, is I kind of eyeballed where I thought the mark would go here, or I guess like the 1/8 of an inch line. So you can see there's about maybe an 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch here. So I kind of just went down the side here with my pencil. So if I decided to fit one of these in, I knew where to trim it. So since these are kind of sticking out on the side, I figured I could do that. So let's see what this one says. Like this right here says happy birthday. And granted, we're only going to see part of it, but since it kind of goes with our theme, I thought we could do that. So let me lift this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slide this in, and I'm going to eyeball where I had that pencil mark, which is probably right about here. And I'm going to just snip this with my paper snips. I'm going to attempt to make it straight. And same thing again, just put a little bit, doesn't need a lot, just a teeny bit of glue. And you might say, oh, I don't like those little partial pieces, and that's okay. Again, this is just an idea for something different to do, because this isn't really what this is for. I just thought it would be fun to do something different. So we have these pieces here, which are partial. So again, I have the pencil line. I already drew one here, so I'm just going to do the same thing. Just going to attempt to cut a straight line. And then this has adhesive on it. Oops. And it seems like every single thing I'm cutting, I'm having a day, because I am not cutting a darn thing straight at all. So then I'm just going to pull the backing, because I put the adhesive sheet on there. And then I kind of just fit it back in where it was. Yeah, everything is on a slant over here. I'm going to have to add something to it, because I have just totally made this one crazy looking. What's the sentiment say? Be strong. Now we're going to get rid of that one. So you probably could line this up if you wanted to do it a little bit more straight, maybe from one side or the other, and then you wouldn't have to worry about what side had what. And I could also have potentially cut this a little bit, or laid the thing down a little crooked, so it could be that. So there's that. So basically, when you're lifting this, these pieces are going to just all be on here kind of willy-nilly. This little heart is here, which this also does already have a dye or adhesive on the back. And I feel like that is probably the one little thing that I was like, oh, I'm not going to use that little bit. So I bet you that one's gone. So I'm going to have to use that. Or another thing you could even do is cut something completely different color. Or, oh, this will be good. We could even put crystal effects, the shimmery crystal effects on this to kind of make it stick out a little bit more. I'm just going to try to make sure that's kind of lined up. Oops. So again, this is just a piecework kind of thing, and it's kind of something I thought would be neat. You don't have to do it this way. I mean, you remember that. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. This one, I also couldn't find my little slim piece that fit in here, so obviously this is a different color. But I also can't find my other one. I wonder if I used it on a card. I might have. Might have done something like that. So we're just going to keep going in and piecing these together. And I'm just going to do my best. And again, the other thing is, since this one side seems to be a little crooked, I might just somehow attach a little ribbon length over here to kind of cover up my whoopsie. All right, so we obviously don't want to add the sympathy to this since it's magical. That would be a little unmagical. That one doesn't fit. We could leave some of these blank as well. That's another idea. But I'm going to put this one on because I think this would be cute. Let me just cut this off. So I am super excited about the in colors. However, oops, I had the wrong side. I always am really excited about the in colors, except for Rococo Rose. Just was not my favorite. What are you guys all most excited about potentially seeing? I know we always love the new stamp sets because that's always a big draw with seeing the new stamp sets. So we'll say, like, I'm going to call this right here. This one must not have any adhesive on this little flap, which kind of could be another cute thing. You could even pop that up if you wanted to, but I'm going to make it flat just because otherwise it might look a little odd. I got a little extra with my glue there. I always love seeing the new stamp sets. And I have a little pencil mark here I'm going to erase. Must have been one where I didn't have something there. Probably could put, where was this? Here. I could probably put this little piece of something. Where is that big one? Right down here. Could probably pop that in. That was this one. It was the bottom of that. Just looking around for my other things. And you could even, we could even put like we have a little star. For some reason, this one I did have trouble lining up, so that one's totally goofy. But so let's pull this off. So you could also use this if you wanted to. Oh, here's another star. We can even fill in if we'd like. Just going to put that over here just to give a little, oops, something. All right, so we will mount this before we do anything else with it. And then I will still have all these other little sentiments. So I'm going to move these out of the way. And I did mean to put one up on dimensional, and I forgot. Let's see if we have anything. This one must have got cut off. I must have done this as like a partial something. You could even take some of these on the side if you wanted to. So this one totally does not even fit with that scheme there. But just to fill in a little side space over here, I'm just going to pull this one off. We'll just kind of add this in. Like so. All right. So let me move these, and then we'll do an actual full another one. So we can do one. I'll show you how to use it, or should I say how to best attempt to use it, because I am still in the works with this. Where's my little bag of sentiments? So I will just take, I have an envelope here, and I will just take all of these little sentiments and just put them in here. That way if I need them for something later, except for the pieces that are kind of partially cut, I'll just throw those out. So I have all these in here in case I needed something to fill in with, okay? So I have my base, oops, here. And I have this here. And again, I can see that these are all a little bit weirdly cut. So I'm going to pull something, and this might be just nice enough because it'll be white. So this is one of the 3 parts from the flowers. My goodness, I can't even remember what this thing is called. But anyway, the flower trio of ribbons. I don't know if they call it a trio, if there's 3. I can't remember. After seeing the catalog and the lists and everything, my brain is a little mushy. So I'm just going to tie a little faux knot. I'm going to attempt to not pull this too tight so it's not curvy. And let's see. I think it's called Field of Flowers. That feels like it's right. And I like this ribbon a lot, and I will tell you why. It ties really well, but it also has enough give that if you were to pull it too tight, you can kind of untighten it a little bit or even make it a little bit more snug. So I'm going to trim this just a hair. So it's really kind of close. There's that and that. And then I am also going to decide if I want to move this up. So this is just kind of here to cover because I had a little crooked boo-boo. I didn't estimate that properly. So I'm going to put a glue dot up here at the top. One there. And one down here at the bottom, just to kind of hold it in place. So you could have adjusted this ribbon if you wanted to a little bit. So I'm going to leave it like that. So just that a little bit of fixing of the card. So again, we're just kind of trying to go for something slightly simple. Now, you could glue this down, but since I wanted to pop the whole thing up and I didn't, I'm actually going to put this up on dimensionals. So I'm just going to I'm just using black dimensionals because I have them handy. Now, since this is a color cardstock, it's not going to show through with the black dimensionals on the back here. If it was white, I would worry. I'm going to put one more up top here. Probably could have dispersed those better. But the other part is the dimensionals here on the back of the ribbon are actually going to help to hold that in place as well. Okay, so I'm just going to give them a nice little pop on there. So much easier to punch around the sentiment than put, hold on, I can't see that because of my paper there. Punch, then put a die. Oh, yes, I agree. I felt that way when we got rid of like the first 5 circle punches, because you can just stamp it wherever and punch it out. I totally agree with you. And die cutting is much more time consuming. Believe me, you are preaching to the choir. I 100% agree with you. All right, so we're going to pop that up here. Okay, so there is that. So relatively simple. But one other thing I wanted to do, and I'm just going to grab this now because I'm going to be able to set it on the side. This is the Shimmery Crystal Effects. These were from the holiday catalog. And I'm going to put this here because I know I can let it sit. So I'm just going to put these onto my shape. So I have a heart. And really, I am talking to myself when I say this, so don't take it personally. You really have to let this sit and dry, Rach, because that is probably my #1 error, is I forget that I put stuff on it, and then I touch it, and then somehow, at the very last second, I goop it up. So, I have just a little bit of something. It's not anything fancy. I did the star, and I did the heart. And if for some reason, if you still have trouble, the other thing you could do, where is my take your pick tool, is you could even, oops, I had the right part out. You could even use your paper piercing end. Now, granted, you want to clean this off right afterwards, but if you feel like you're not getting enough precision, you can kind of move your liquid around a little bit with this. If you wanted to get it a little bit more to the edge. Just make sure you clean this tip off right away because it will goop it up if you don't. So I got it with my fingers, and then I also wiped it with a microfiber cloth. Okay, so there's that. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to attempt to sit it somewhere where I don't botch it up. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to sit it on the side. Hopefully I won't ruin it. So to go back a step, this die, and I am going to need to move it where I put it, but we'll get to that in a minute. This stamp set and die are kind of nice because you can ink it once, and then you don't have to worry about doing it again, essentially. I'm going to clean this off because I didn't clean it last time. I kind of treat this like one of my background stamps where I sometimes use it in the case, but it's typically a lot better utilized if you use your Stamparatus or a stamp positioning tool. If you don't have a Stamparatus, maybe you have something else. Only because if you don't get it dark enough, you can re-ink it and fix it. So let me just make sure this is somewhat clean. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this up, put these in here for now. And I'm going to take my Stamparatus, pull this out. And you can see, I really like to reuse my paper. All right, so then I'll take I'm just using a bigger piece of white cardstock. I'm going to set this down and kind of find a spot. Let's see. Oh, you know what I'm going to do instead? Watch this. Hold on. Here's what I'm going to do instead to get this to stay still. I'm going to flip this over so you can see. I have a little piece of some sort of tape, Stampin' Seal Plus, one of the ones you call it. And I'm going to just pick a line here on the side so I line it up. And I'll put that on there. That way I don't have to worry about magneting down the paper and missing a spot. And then I'm just going to use the magnet to hold my actual paper down. That way when I lift this up, it doesn't take both papers with me. Okay, so I have this here. Yeah, you know, especially too, if you can't get a good impression the first time, Donna, or if for some reason your stamp wasn't inked like you thought it was, or your yeah, your stamp pad wasn't inked like you thought it was. So let's say, for example, if we were to use this. So we've got a little background piece and we have like a bright fish here. So you have Calypso Coral would be a good highlight, or Pacific Point. So let's do Pacific Point just for this one. And I'll show you what I did. So I am going to grab another stamp pad just because it makes it a little easier to ink it flat. So I'm going to ink this up. I think this one's been inked fairly recently. And close it. I'm just pressing all around. So look here. So it is inked except the heart. That's probably the only thing. But sometimes I like to have it just a little bit darker. So I'm just going to go through one more time. Same thing. Ink again. And it should be in the same spot because I didn't touch anything. So I'm just kind of pressing down. Somebody did something. I can't remember what it was, but they used something to press on this. And if any of you guys remember, please remind me what it was. But they used something to press on it. I cannot remember what it was. And I thought it was such a good idea. Not a rolling pin, but kind of something similar to that. So now you have your piece of stamped cardstock. Okay. And what we're going to do now, I'm just going to close this, move these out of the way. I'm going to pick this up. Let me move this too. Just trying to keep this as out of the way as possible, because I have entirely too many things on this desk at once. So now I'm going to grab my die. And I'm going to position this. So I will say, I didn't really set that up to say if it was 100% straight. I just kind of slapped it on. So usually what I do is I will look at the heart and make sure that's lined up, and the star, and you might have to kind of slide it just a little bit over. And also, as a FYI, my stamp set got curled, or my die got curled. So I think the tiny bit of it is not exactly lined up how it should be. So I kind of make sure that they mostly look like they're lined up in there. Like so. And then I will take a piece of tape and kind of go around the back. Now, prior to cutting this, I want to show you one more thing you could do. Okay, before you do that, you can flip it over, and this will make it way easier on you in the long run. You can take a piece of adhesive sheet, even if it's just a scrap, and you just do it for some of them, and you pull it off and put it, I'm going to go across for this, put it on the back, because now some of our sentiments will already have adhesive backing on them. So I'm just going to grab another one, put one here, and one more down here. Just like that. So now, once it's die cut, it already has adhesive, which one other thing that kind of helps to do is it helps to keep the things in the backing until you really want to, you know where you want to use them. So let's just see if this looks like it's, for the most part, lined up again. Just kind of taking a general look. I'm going to tape this again, and I'm only wrapping around the back. You could actually do it up here, look, because there's not as much up here. It'll be easier. We'll go like this up here. We'll cover the heart and cover this backing part here. So then I'm going to run this through. Hold on, let me move this card so I don't mess it up. And again, I am still using a Big Shot. So I am going to put this down on my magnetic plate because I use that pretty much all the time. Whoops, look at that. I just moved it. I should have done a little bit at the bottom. Here, let's do it just a teeny bit at the bottom. So I'm going to set this here, cutting plate on the bottom, cutting plate on the top, and crank it through. It does make a lot of noise because it has a lot of die cuts. I'm going to slide this over just for a second because I want to do one more thing. So we have this piece here. This one fell out because it wasn't really fully attached on there. because we had just a partial piece of paper. Oops. And remember, the whole back of the sheet wasn't covered with die cut or with adhesive sheet. Oops. So if you did a larger piece, it would stay more together. So if you use like a full sheet. So now you have your pieces. So they're pretty well together for now. So if you wanted to put them in that way. But what I'm going to do before I finish with that, I'm just going to put these together so all the pieces are together. I'm going to take this, which is a full cut, and this time, instead of just willy-nilly centering it over here, I'm going to attempt to center it. Let me just take this piece off. I'm going to attempt to center it so it's more to the left. So when we actually cut this, one more piece here. We actually cut this, it's going to be more square to the side, okay, like so. So I'm going like that. Okay, so for this one, because it's not really centered on a word or anything, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So again, I do have my metallic, or sorry, my magnetic plate down there. I'm kind of just trying to line it up to the bottom of the DSP. And I just want to make sure it's not hanging over. All right, so there's that. And then I'm going to put this on top of it. And I'm going to crank this through again. Let me move that card once more. It's twice I've touched it now, and I haven't ruined it yet. There's hope. Now, totally same thing with that one, but I got ahead of myself. I could have put adhesive on the back, but I forgot. One final thing you could do, and I know I have this here. Let me see if I see it. I probably finally decided to clean my desk, and how much you want to bet I finally put it away. What I was going to say is if you have a piece of fun foam, this would be the perfect time to run it through, because then you'll have pieces that are already lifted. Oh, here's a couple little pieces. We'll just do a few little here and there's. So I'm just going to push this out. So for the most part, that still kind of stayed together. And let's slide this over here. Probably once I move it, it'll start falling. And then I'm going to do one more time. That way, when we do our third card, we'll have some of this already done as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put, and I'm going to switch, hold on, so I can do this the easy way. If you notice, I have one plate that's really, really cut and one that's not. So to try to make it simpler, I'm actually going to put this cut side up. And then I'm going to put, I'm going to put some of these in here. And they may not all 100% cut. All right, that one I'll do too. Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to do ones that are going to give me the biggest bang for my buck. Down there. That looks good. And we'll do this. Even though I know that's kind of a little willy-nilly. So this is just fun foam I had left over from like Michael's, Joann's, any of those big box stores. I'm going to put this on top and I'm going to run this through one more time. I'm going to move this again. And I'm actually going back and forth with that just to make sure it cut the first time. But since it is cut side up, if you lift it, oops, I was going to say you can see the die cuts on there. You should be able to see that. So I'm going to move this over. Let me put these down here. Okay. Woo, oops, a lot of static. All right, and let me move this one more time. Hopefully it'll stay intact since I've moved it all those times. So then I have also my die cut pieces that if I want to use something to layer it with, I can. So you can see kind of was like, this was probably, I know some of these weren't exactly lined up, and that's okay because I knew that was going to happen. But we kind of have some of our die cuts here that we could put something up onto it if we wanted to. So since this has Pacific Point was the ink that we went with, that was kind of, we were trying to highlight that, and we have the Pacific Point fish. I'm going to do Pacific Point as the background just because I haven't used this one that often. And I just have a piece here already that happens to be 4 1/4 by 11. I just haven't scored it, so let me score that. And if you are new to Stampin' Up, the cool part about our trimmer is it has a scoring blade, which is light, and a cutting blade, which is dark, on the same thing. So you can do both together, which is really great. So I have my base piece. So then all you kind of have to do is figure out, what do you want to do? Do you want to do the same thing where we piece it together again? But this time, instead of putting it onto a layering piece like we did for the first one, I'm just going to fill this in. So I'm going to do my best here. Let's see. The thank you. Remember, that one was kind of like partially cut off because of where we did it. So I'm just holding that one in there for place. We're not necessarily doing that. But we could also do, and I apologize for my arm, we could do Hooray, It's Your Birthday. We could do that one on there. Let's see, what did this one fit? Wishing You, we already did Wishing You Magical Moments, so I don't want to do the same exact thing again. Let's see about this one. I'm so happy to celebrate these moments with you. We'll do that one. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this one in. This is the piece here with the fish. So I'm just going to grab my liquid glue. Don't need a lot. And I'm just going to kind of piece this in. Whoop. Got a little over enthusiastic with my pressing. This is going to kind of be where it hangs off just a little bit off the side. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be an edge-to-edge card. So what I'll do is, instead of worrying about measuring it, I'm just going to trim this off. But, and I don't have the piece of fun foam for that one. So this one's going to glue straight down as well. This one has adhesive. So just pull this off and put just a teeny bit of liquid glue on there. There's that one. What else do we have here? This one was from the top. Might as well put this one here. There's our fish. Oh my goodness, I have got to stop doing that. And I don't even have sticky stuff on my finger. I think it's just they're so dry, everything's sticking to each other. This one was Be Brave, which I don't really necessarily think we probably need on there. You could always, if you wanted to have a little bit something different, you could add some different visual interest in there. Now, granted, one thing you have to remember is this is going to have the opposite sided die cut. So this side is really nicely stitched. This is going to have the little bit of the rougher look to it, but you may not notice it. So let's try it. We'll see what this one looks like. Actually, for this one, I definitely have a piece that is fun foam. So we'll put this onto the back. Let's see, it should line up. We might have to flip it. Yep, just to be safe. So I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue. Put this up here, and I am going to hold this just for a second. Now, we do also have the double-sided adhesive, and you absolutely can use that too. The only reason I grabbed this is because I knew I had it sitting around, so I figured I might as well use it up. Just some little, oops, extra stuff. So let's see if we can fit that in here. Okay, so once you are going to like settle on what you're doing with these, when you pull them out, just make sure you take your time so you don't pull off your pieces that you put up on fun foam, and you also don't rip them. Do the same thing here. What's this one say? Congratulations. Let's do congratulations for that. And I had adhesive on this one, so I probably didn't need glue, but same thing again. We'll fit this in. I know this has a teeny little spot that's missing because of the way this one was die cut. So you can always put some sort of a little gem of sorts on there to cover it up. Honestly, depending on where it is, someone may or may not even notice anyway. Okay, here's that. Let's see what we have down here. I want to check these. We have thoughts and prayers. I don't want to add that one. Hope your day is full of Love, Laughter, and Joy. Now that one could work. The only thing is one of our little parts is cut off. So, yeah, we'll leave this one as is. I'm just going to pull this up. Same as before, put just a little bit of adhesive. Trying to make sure it's facing the correct direction. Just for a little cohesion with this here, I'm going to flip this one around. And I know maybe some of the seaweed is facing upside down, but here's another one that's very easy to put in. This one, actually, the adhesive just popped right off of it for this one. So I just went with that. Okay. So aside from the fact that this little spot up here is a little bit empty, you could always fit something in there, and we're going to trim these little bits off here. So I'm just going to flip this. You can barely see this little piece here, but I'm going to trim that. And if you wanted to, oops, I got that one. If you wanted to, you could even go so far as to add like a little circle punched or square cut image here, or even the stitched nested label die, the really small one. You could do that, and it'll kind of just add a little bit of something. So it's not necessarily that this even has to be like your traditional whatever it is. I mean, I think this is a nice set because you can kind of mix and match some of the stuff, and it's really using it outside the box. Okay, so there's another thing. So we have this one, and these are in two totally different color schemes. So again, this wasn't Calypso Coral, by the way. I fibbed. This was Terracotta Tile and Pretty Peacock. So there are those two. And then another one that you could do, and this again would just be kind of filling the space. So I'm going to kind of stick with the same color scheme so I can fit some of these pieces back in. But instead, let us go with, what else do we have on here? No, that's not Bumblebee. I feel like that might be maybe Crushed Curry. So let me do that just for something different, because I don't really think I use Crushed Curry all that much. So I'm going to grab, I think I only have a full sheet. So give me 1 second. I'm going to cut this down, and then this will be kind of our final card, because I'm going to do something to the background of this prior to adding the sentiments. Let me just move all these little dies and whatnot over. All right, so this one, those two were both, we're going to do this way this time. Actually, that one was the other direction. I forgot. So I'm scoring at 5.5, cutting at 4 1/4. So I have a half sheet of cardstock. And just to be on the safe side, what you could do is you could mask this off. So I'm just going to do that with just a little piece of the Post-it note tape, just so I don't go too far over. So, and I'm also kind of just using it to hold this in place. So this is going to be the front of our card here. So I'm going to grab my stamp set, or my stamp. Now, again, a lot of times I will do this in the stamp case, but since I'm trying to go a little bit more for precision, I'm going to put it into the Stamparatus. So bear with me just 1 second. We'll use this one here. Just move this over. All right. So I'm kind of just picking a spot. It doesn't really need to be necessarily lined up, but I like to, if I'm using this, to line up whatever I'm doing with at least one of the vertical lines. And then I'm just going to take the all wired up, and I'm going to grab my magnet so it holds this down. Hold on, I got to pull this out. I'm going to grab this just so it holds my paper down. And I'm kind of lining this up. I'm going to close it. I very rarely ever put the background stickers on, so I'm sorry if that's throwing you off. That's just something I don't usually do. And I'm going to grab my crushed curry because, again, this is kind of like a fish background card, so it's kind of a little bit weird anyway of having this, but I thought we'll just see what it looks like with a background stamp, kind of filling in our holes. Hopefully that's enough. So I'm just going to stamp this, give it a good press. Okay, so that's pretty good. If you wanted to, you could ink it twice, but since I've not done this before, I don't want to get too crazy. So I'm just going to take my Post-it tape off. Now, the reason I use that is because I didn't want it to go over the line here. Okay, I just want it to stay on that one side. So let me move this. Move this. All right, so same thing. I'm just going to make sure this is lined up. Oops. Come on. I must not have scored this one as exact as I thought I did. All right, so same thing again. You're going to take your little piece here, and you could actually, oops, there's a piece of my hair that's stuck in a place I never wanted, as usual. You could actually do another thing with this if you wanted to. So I know this is very, very thin, but if you wanted to, what you could do is you could even place this on, and then you'll have your little pieces sticking up that you could cover with words, or you could cover with something. That way you could see the opposite, so see the negative points of what we were doing. Or we can just do the same thing and place these in. So let's try this one. I know this one is Hooray, It's Your Birthday. So we're going to go ahead and use that piece of fun foam. So again, since nothing is really adhered here. Oh, we can't do that. You know why? Because that one's all the way up here. This one might be our little extra piece if we run out. We'll sit that there. So instead, let's go here. Oh, I might have to stamp this one more time just to get some of these words out. Or I can grab my little bag. Grab my little bag of words. I'm sorry, some people probably are watching this like, why don't you have this stuff picked out already? Because for me, half of the fun is figuring out what I'm going to do as I do it. So let's see. And this one, all you really have to do is kind of get started with one. And even though I know part of this is going to be cut off, I kind of like where it's going. So I'm going to go with this. So I'm just doing my best to line it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Post-it tape. So I just want to try to get this somewhat square. I'm going to tape this down. Oops. Tape that down. And then I'm going to take this and kind of line it up so I feel like it has enough of a margin. And I don't want too much, but I'm just kind of taping it in place so I can fit some of these in. It's all, this Post-it tape is super mobile. So put this here. So I'm going to peel this off. One from each side. And I'm just going to stick this in like so. Again, I don't want to give this too much of a push because I know I'm going to have to trim this off over here. So there's one. What do we have down here at the bottom? I'm just going to move this up since I have this piece here. We also have Sending a Smile Your Way, which I know isn't really necessarily, I'm going to look for my other one here with the blue, but we have a lot of pieces. We're even going to go with this. This one's in, not in coral, but it's in terracotta. So we'll do the same thing. This one doesn't have adhesive, so I'm just going to put a little bit here. But just kind of another way. And again, part of this will be cut off, but I think they'll get the gist of what we're doing. What do we have up here? Magical moments. So let me see if we have my other piece over here. I think we might have already used that one. I'm going to move this one. So same thing again. I'm just going to pop this up, put a little bit of glue, make sure my fish are heading in the correct direction. This one I can't do. You know what? We can even do something just white here. We're going to just do this one white, because my words on this one are just not really going with what I want to go with. So I'm going to just flip it. Since this one is a symmetrical pattern, and then you'll just have a little white. You could have even stamped this with one of the stamps from the Whale Done and have something going through, like the sea nettle with the jellyfish, or even the turtle. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, pop this one in. All right, and I think I want to add one more. What is this one? Where's this little dude go? Oh my goodness. This one, oh, here. Whoops. Nope. We could do this guy down here. Just kind of a little mix matched. And then finally, I'll pull this off. You could also, if you wanted to be able to use this with something that's more sturdy, you could run this die cut through a piece of the window sheet, and then you would have a more of a stencil-like design. So that's another idea. I haven't done one with that yet. I wanted to do it, but I just haven't gotten to that point yet. Let me just pull this tape off. And even here, we can even add this up here. So we're going to put this here. Put my sentiment on top that says, oops, hooray, it's your birthday. Lord, I have the dropsies today, I'll tell you that. Is that backwards? Nope, it wasn't. I feel like it is. Just got a teeny little bit of white flowing through. And then we can just put this up here on top. So again, this is a lot of different scrappy things that we kind of went with for this. You could always even put this little thing on here so it kind of brings it together, because it doesn't really necessarily have to be lined up exactly right, but it will give you a little bit more of a feel of what it was. But I kind of like being able to do it this way, only because you don't feel like you're stuck with using all of the words if you're using some designer series papers with it too. Kind of gives you just a little something else. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to fit. And if I put it on there, it's going to be crooked. We'll go with that. You can always add this to the inside if you wanted to add inside sentiment. But Let me move a few of these pieces out of the way. So I hope this has given you just a little bit of insight if you maybe have this set or you weren't sure if you do or don't like this set or what you could necessarily do with it. And this one's another one too because it has that nice long sentiment that if you wanted to put this on the side instead of this little piece, you could always rework that there as well and maybe put this one over here or switch it around. Has that little diagonal cut sentiment. But the other part about it that is really nice is that, oops, this one does not have enough glue, is that it kind of gives you a lot of sentiments. If you like to pre-cut stuff and have things ahead of time, it gives you something else to be able to use them with. So you can have all of your sentiments. You can just grab one if you need it. That's the reason that when I do these, I've done them in black. I did it in the terracotta. This recent one was in Pacific Point because it kind of gives you some extra stuff that you have on hand just in case you needed to add sentiments to something, because I really do like the way it cuts out the sentiments ahead of time. That's a really good feature. So let me show you this. I do like the first card because I do like the crystal effects, but I think this one is my favorite. I don't know if it's just the color or just the way it was laid out, but let me just scoot just a few of these things out of your way so you could just see this just a slight bit better. And I still have all of these sentiments, which what I'll do is just pop those out and be able to add them into my bag of sentiments in case I need something. All right, scoot this over. And there we go. So hopefully you learned at least a little something new today. I do thank you all so much for joining me. It is much more fun to craft with friends, and I know that we are not anywhere near each other. However, I haven't crafted with actual real live people in, I can't even tell you how long it's been. Actually, as a matter of fact, my friend and I were talking about stamping the other day, and I think the last time we had a stamp party was in September of last year, which really makes me sad because as much as I love stamping so much better when I'm actually doing it with somebody. And the fact that I can't stamp with anybody, even though I've had both of my shots, and I know not everybody is that fortunate, so I am really not complaining about that, but it just makes me sad. I miss stamping with people because when you do it with people versus not, it's so much more fun. I hope you like at least one of these cards. I will say if I have to pick, I think this one is my favorite. I think I really like the color scheme for this one much better. This one, definitely different. And I think, again, I still would like to cut that die out with window sheet. Only because I feel like then you could use it as a template. And maybe instead of stamping something, you could actually stamp it. And then you would have little pieces showing up here and there, which I think would be another really cool idea. So I'll have to try that. Maybe when we're finished today, I'm going to run it through the die cut machine and just do another card and see what it ends up looking like. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Remember, if you have anything that you'd like to purchase, this is my current host code. If you have an order that is $150 or less, or I should say less than $150, use this code. If not, make sure you don't enter a code. That way you get the hostess benefits. Essentially, with any of the hostess rewards I get, what I do is I just use them to buy things to be able to give away to you guys for watching. So thank you so much. You said you're biased for the blue. I totally get it. I think this one is too. I really like Pacific Point. I think it's a very underutilized color, especially by me, and it's a beautiful color. It goes really nice too with the crushed curry and even with the bumblebee. It's a pretty color together. So thank you guys very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Again, I won't be live on Saturday because we do have lacrosse really early. So I will see you next time will be Tuesday. Most likely on Tuesday. I think I'll try to go live at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't already, I would love for you to make sure that you turn on your notifications here on Facebook, or if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you have a friend you think would like to see this video, invite them. More the merrier. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you again real soon.